This week on the Fantasy Forecast Rookie Prospect Reports, I'm spotlighting three 2026 rookie prospects who fantasy managers need to have on their radar early. Eli Stowers, Chris Bell, and Mike Washington. These aren't just names to file away for later. Each will bring traits that translate into NFL level and fantasy production right away. They're the types of players who quietly gain value before the market fully catches up on them. We're diving into the film, breaking down role, usage, and projection, and focusing on what actually matters for fantasy football. And if you're looking to get ahead of the rookie draft cycle instead of reacting to consensus, this is the episode you'll want to be locked into. So let's get this party started. Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Forecast Rookie Prospect Reports right here on FSAN, where we break down the incoming NFL talent through a fantasy football lens. Last week, Mad Dog spotlighted Omar Cooper, Katron Allen, and Ty Simpson, and now I'm diving into the traits, development plans, and what makes them valuable assets in fantasy before the market adjusts. This week, we'll shift our focus to Eli Stowers, Chris Bell, and Mike Washington. Three prospects, very, very different profiles, but legitimate fantasy football intrigue. Each brings a versatility and explosiveness that makes plays. So we're going to break down the strengths, areas for development, and projected roles using, the film that I watched to outline both their floor and ceiling outcomes, from power burst in the backfield to separation ability and usage versatility. This episode is designed to help fantasy managers stay ahead of the rookie draft cycle and identify value before consensus forms. So let's get this party started here, and let's talk about our first guy here. And talk about Eli Stowers. Now, 6'2", 228 pounds, 23-year-old. I call him something a little bit more versatile, not the biggest guy here when we think about a tight end in stature and stuff, but brings a really good base here. He's the scenic route from quarterback to SEC mismatch weapon. So, a four-star quarterback recruit who began his career at Texas A&M. Stowers transitioned to tight end, and after transferring to New Mexico State, he finished his career at Vanderbilt, where he became the centerpiece of their passing attack. So across 2 seasons at Vanderbilt, he posted 1,400 receiving yards on 111 target receptions, 9 touchdowns, earning him first-team All-SEC honors and the Mackey Award semifinalist recognition after emerging as Diego Pavia's security blanket and vertical stressor. So, efficiency metrics reinforce the breakout here. 109 QB rating when targeted, 93% short receiving grade, 94% intermediate route grade, 94% deep threat grade, and 84% hands grade. At 6'4", 235 pounds, he wins differently. Verified 4.55 speed, 98th percentile, allowing him to threaten seams and detach as a big slot more than a traditional Y tight end. Air raid isn't here to move defensive ends. He's here to move the coverage. So best tape I saw was him working the seam and setting himself into zone windows where he looks like a former quarterback playing chess against linebackers playing checkers. His body control in the air is elite. High point timing, late hands, and balance through contact show up repeatedly. Once the ball is secured, his post-catch instincts kick in. He creates poor pursuit angles, accelerates into space, and churns out hitting yardage with subtle cuts. His more explosive after the catch is during the route itself, which is saying something at 4.55. Some of his middling performances, Stowers was often a beneficiary of schemed touches, quick seams, crosser screens, but he steadily refined as a top of the route feel. Now adds a touch of separation at the break point instead of relying purely on athleticism. Against zone defenses, he consistently settles, squares to the quarterback, and becomes easily throwing to in that window. Worst tape, his inline reps expose the limitations because of his size, obviously. He struggles to generate movement in the run game. His hand placement and leverage has issues, can be overwhelmed by stronger defensive ends, and his slight frame limits his anchor strength. The physicality, though, impacts him at the catch point. When defenders disrupt his timing early in the route, his efficiency, it will dip. He's improving, though, but the blocking profile caps his snap count in traditional heavy sets. So strength, weaknesses, slot mismatch, absolutely. He creates a mismatch advantage inside, quick enough to align outside and find success. And the way the NFL is moving now towards these 12 and 13 personnel, he may find himself as a prime target in the right offense. His elite body control, high point specialist, fantastic mid-air adjustment skills, his zone feel and football IQ. Being a former quarterback, his instincts show up in his spatial awareness and timing. He's dangerous in space after the catch. He makes pursuits, defenders, bad angles, and miss. That 4.55 speed is a 93rd percentile. It stresses safeties up the seam. Obviously, his weaknesses is in the run game liability. He's got that below average power and leverage as a blocker. 7th percentile in weight limits his play strength, and he can be distributed by strong contact through the route. But, some player comparisons here: Ben Sinnott, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, they're all very versatile. First tight end in alignment and their flexibility. His projection is, a detached tight end early in his career. Probably limited to some slot-heavy usage, seam and crosser specialist, red zone high point option because of his height, and the motion test chess piece here. He will require some schematic protection from heavy inline duties and 11 personnel, spread looks, and play action concepts. So I can't see him playing in a whole lot of 11 personnel because of his size, but we'll see what happens. There is a variation in his evaluation, though. He is ranked 56 overall here headed into the draft. Tight end 3 in some rankings. He's my tight end 2 headed into here. Eli Stowers transformed from quarterback recruit into one of the most dynamic receiving tight ends in the 2026 class. His body control, spatial awareness, and post-catch instincts give him a real offensive utility from day one. Looking at probably day 2 draft capital here, he's not an extra tackle. He's an aerial weapon. So if there's space in the defense, air raid is already landing on it. So yeah, looking for him to play a major part on a team if that is the case here. Now, we've been diving deep here into the rookie prospects. This is probably this 8th show that's dropping, but what else is dropping is a more in-depth look into our rookies. So let's check it out here from the Fantasy Sports Advice Network and what we got cooking.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Sports Advice Network NFL Rookie Prospect Guide, built by fantasy managers for fantasy managers who want an edge before draft day even arrives. The Devi Dojo and the Fantasy Forecast squads have been grinding film and data, breaking down over 70 offensive prospects with fantasy football in mind. Every profile includes college production, athletic testing, advanced metrics, and role-based evaluations that translate directly to your dynasty, redraft, best ball, and superflex leagues. The first release drops Monday, March the 9th, with a fully updated post-NFL edition coming 1 week after, complete with landing spots and fantasy outlooks. Make sure to get your copy at release. Everyone who grabs the early edition receives the updated version at no extra charge. With the Fantasy Sports Advice Network NFL Rookie Prospect Guide, winning your league isn't luck. It's doing the work early, staying ahead all season, and forcing your league mates to play catch up from day one.
All right, yes, let's move on here to our next prospect here that we're going to deep dive, and that is Chris Bell from Louisville. What a prospect he has been, and somebody that I'm really excited to break down here for y'all. Exciting prospect that is Chris the Primetime Bell. Looks exactly how you would build your prototypical ex-receiver in a lab. You know, a former 3-star recruit who chose Louisville over multiple SEC suitors. Bell steadily developed into the alpha target the Cardinals needed. After flashing big play ability early in his career, his 2 seasons cemented him as one of the ACC's most physically imposing receivers. His career totals 148 receptions, 2,100 yards, and 12 touchdowns through 46 games. His senior year, 72 receptions, 917 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And Bleckenkoff semi-finalist, 113 QB rating when targeted, 90% intermediate grade, 90% deep threat grade, and 82% hands grade as of PFF. At 222 pounds, 6'2", 89th percentile in weight. He's a verified 4.4 speed, 93rd percentile. Bell fits the modern boundary prototype. The only cloud here was a torn ACL suffered against SMU late in November, ending his season and removing him from the pre-draft testing circuit. Before the injury, he was trending to be a first-round pick. Now patience becomes the part of the evaluation. His tape, it brings full of speed, especially on deep covers. Vertical shots is what defensive coordinators lose sleep over. He builds speed with galloping strides and erases cushions quickly. In breaking routes, he's dominant, attacking corners, blind spots, decelerating, and with surprising control and presenting a massive strike zone for his quarterback. After the catch, he becomes a different species. The transition from receiver to runner is immediate. He lowers pads, pin balls off defenders, and turns 8-yard completions into 25-yard statements. Against disciplined press cover corners, Bell wins with strength more than twitch. He uses body positioning, to box out defenders and plays through contact. Even when, separation isn't clean, he makes it with physical play and is very quarterback friendly. Physically on tape, he's handsy to corners that can disrupt him early in the routes. His release package lacks sudden lateral explosiveness. He will double catch and trap passes at times, which could become an issue against NFL DBs who punch through hands. And of course, that ACL, that's the elephant in the draft room here. But some strengths from him is that long speed, 6'2", 220, built like a power forward who runs a 4.4. Dominant on in-breakers, deep overs, digs, and crossers are his playground. Contested catch power, he inflates contact, wins through it. Outstanding body control and back shoulder throws. After the catch, violence, transitions into a runner instantly, creates poor pursuit angles, and breaks arm tackles. And he's got that football IQ. He understands leverage and cover structure, attacks zone voids with intent. Some weaknesses here, obviously, we're going to have to monitor that injury, that recovery timeline, missing all that pre-draft testing. His medicals will be heavily influenced his draft slot. His release versus press, he lacks that elite twitch, separation in his first 3 steps. He's got inconsistent hand techniques, will double catch or body trap throws at times. And, his effort sometimes in the run blocking has been noticed on tape. He flashes power, but he inconsistently, at times. Player comparison here, people have him pegged as like a AJ Brown lookalike. The build, the play strength, the dominance on in-breaking routes, and the after-the-catch punishment, it does mirror Brown's profile coming out. But Bell isn't quite as sudden laterally. The archetype is clear, though, a boundary receiver who can anchor an offense and bully defensive backs. His projection and translation to the NFL, well, Primetime projects as a true boundary X receiver, deep covers, crossers, or his playground, back shoulder fades, slants, and glance routes. Love it, love it, love it. Slot mismatch opportunities with nickel corners, I think, is going to happen here. He fits vertical and explosive play offenses that prioritize chunk yardage. If healthy, he profiles as a future R wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 spike weeks in the right matchup. His ability to win downfield and after the catch, create high value targets. The key variable here is his recovery timeline. Teams drafting Bell are investing in 2027 returns, not that immediate production here. Without that tear, though, Bell likely hears his name called on day one, but the injury introduces that volatility, but no doubt about the talent. Medical confidence will determine how high he climbs. Chris Primetime Bell checks every physical box for an ex-NFL receiver. Size, speed, strength, and production. He thrives between the hashes, punishes defenders after the catch, and plays like he expects the ball to belong to him. The ACL pauses the hype. It doesn't erase it. When prime time gets rolling on a deep over, it's not coverage. It's collateral damage. Now, let's get into our next prospect and another guy that could surprise down the stretch here, a guy that we're looking for to make an immediate impact. He's climbing up as a sleeper, and I see him going at the tail end of the first round in rookie drafts here. And, he's creeping up there in rankings. He's getting up there for me. Got him in the RB3 range right now in this class, and there's reasons why, and that's Mike Washington, 6'2", 228 pounds. The freight train didn't arrive with that blue chip billing. He arrived with production and left the SEC with momentum after beginning his career at Buffalo and transferring to New Mexico State. Washington found his launch point with the Arkansas Razorbacks in 2025, starting all 12 games in the SEC. He posted 1,000 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns on 167 carries, 6.4 yards per carry, and also contributed in the passing game with 28 receptions and 226 yards and a touchdown. That 6.4 yards per carry came against elite competition, 76% average defense rating he faced. He became the 16th Razorback in program history to eclipse 1,000 rushing yards and the first since Alex Collins in 2015 to record back-to-back 100-yard SEC games, 131 versus Tennessee and 147 versus Texas A&M across 50 college games. Washington rushed for 3,300 total yards, 29 touchdowns, and 660 touches. A beast, sitting at 6'2", 228 pounds with verified 4.45 speed and a 34 1/8 inch arms, 98th percentile. Washington looks like he was built in a power back factory and upgraded with Wi-Fi. The freight train doesn't waste steps, he wastes defenders. His 2025 SEC stretch showcased downhill violence and explosive acceleration once he cleared the first level. But defensive backs were left negotiating angles that didn't exist. The burst through interior gaps is immediate, and his 21 miles per hour, GPS speed, shows up when he hits the daylight. Middle performances, even in tighter contests. Washington, he was consistent. Pressed interior lanes with the urgency, converted short yardage, fell forward through contact, and delivered efficient touches. He may not shimmy in the backfield, but he consistently moves the change. Two reoccurring issues here is his ball security. 10 fumbles in his career is the elephant in the room here, folks. Lateral stiffness in the wide zone concept's also a concern. He's not built for the horizontal dancing. He's built for vertical damage. When forced to string multiple cuts together, his hips, they can look a little tight. Some strengths here. We talked about it here. Rare speed, size, blend, 228 pounds with 4.45 speed. That's linebacker mass with breakaway juice. Downhill decisiveness, one cut and explode. He hits holes like they owe him money. 6.4 explosive efficiency in the SEC yards per carry validates that production wasn't just scheme inflated. He's a physical finisher. Forward lean, pad level, and leg drive create hidden yardage after the contact, after the Senior Bowl. Washington was one of the week's biggest risers, and with good reason here. He impressed in inside run drills, showcased soft hands in team passing sessions, and consistently hit 21 miles per hour on the GPS tracking during practice. Most importantly, he didn't look like a transfer trying to hang on. He looked like an NFL back, imposing his style against top senior competition. That week solidified his day 3 value and put scouts on notice. 10 career fumbles is a concern. Defenders have located the off switch a few times, limiting his lateral fluidity. Wide zone heavy schemes may cap his ceiling, and his receiving ceiling, primary checkdowns and screens were his full focus here. Route expansion is going to be needed to be a 3-down back in the NFL. Pass protection technique, willing to be, and he is physical, but his 40% grade, he must refine his hand placement and base before he breaks out here. Got a couple good comparisons here. I see Josh Jacobs here, similar frame, downhill temperament, but Washington offers some better long speed. The NFL role and projection translation, the freight train profiles, best in gap and power inside zone schemes that allow him to attack defined landmarks and explode vertically. Rotational early down contributor, probably early on in his career, 10 to 12 touches early, goal line and short yardage hammer, probably getting that. And RB2 upside if ball security stabilizes. He may not enter the league as a polished 3-down back, but his Senior Bowl performance and SEC efficiency suggest early trust from coaching staffs. For fantasy managers, this is a classic day 3 value back, one injury away from meaningful volume and built to capitalize on that. Yeah, his draft outlook, 24, 26, look at him, probably looking at day 3, maybe creep into day 2 draft capital because of his breakout, his validated tools, his Senior Bowl week. It just all elevated his stock, and I'm assuming the combine is going to elevate it even more with the testing. He's going to verify that 4.45 speed, which could easily outperform the draft position. He's not finesse, he's force, and he forces travels. Mike, the freight train, Washington saved his best football for the SEC and then confirmed it against NFL caliber talent and Mobile. The frame is rare. The speed is real. The momentum is upward. He's not here to dance behind the line. He's here to run through it. When the freight train hits full speed, it's not a foot race. It's impact physics. So let's get into it. Mike Washington, my guy, Mike. What a guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this year in the NFL, and that's going to be a wrap here, folks, for the fantasy forecast here, rookie prospect reports, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been a good slice. Mike the Freight Train Washington, Eli, Air Raid Stowers, or Chris Primetime Bell are names you need to have circled in your red on your draft board, whether it's the downhill force at 228 pounds, seam stretches athleticism at tight end, or that true X receiver dominance with wide receiver one upside. These are the profiles that separate playoff teams from championship teams. If you want the full scouting reports, deeper film breakdowns, medical analysis, let's do it. Get your copy of the FSAN Rookie Prospect Report Guide that's going to be dropping on March 9th. Full rankings, advanced metrics, scheme fits, dynasty tiers, everything you need to know to attack your 2026 rookie drafts with confidence. Head over to FSAN.com for complete prospect analysis, dynasty strategy, and to stay 2 steps ahead of your league. Remember, freight train running backs, former quarterbacks flying up the seam, and boundary receivers built like power forwards are exactly how fantasy contenders are built. Drop a comment below. Which rookie are you planting your flag on? Let's talk the steals, and we'll see you next time on the Fantasy Forecast Rookie Prospect Reports. Peace out and